Instead of going to some other city, they went to the capital city, the same as you perhaps would do if you were in a foreign country and you came to the United States to see the president. Where would you go? Well, if he's home, you'd go to the White House, wouldn't you? Go to Washington. So they came to Jerusalem. This is what we have to see. And they said, where is he who is born king? They knew a king had been born. They knew it. For we have seen his star in the east. It does not say where they saw it, but they saw it in the east. They saw it the night he was born, at the time he was born. They saw his star in the east. Now those of us who live in this particular hemisphere have never seen, for instance, the Southern Cross. I just do not know how far, maybe Peter could tell me, how far you have to go toward, what do you call that? Equator before you can see the Southern Cross. Peter and Vivian, did you see the Southern Cross when you came from Australia? You should have. We saw it when we were in the Far East. Now you see, this is exactly what occurred at that time. This conjunction of stars was visible in the east. And the east always refers in the Bible a great deal further east than the Near East. But where they came from and who they were, the Bible does not tell us. And if it doesn't tell us, the best of guesses would not suffice. Well, they came, and verse 3 says, when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. He was troubled. Why? Because they reported that a king had been born, and it was this report to King Herod, who was the king, that really shook him. This is what disturbed him so, that a king was born. Had they said to him, well, just a little old Jewish prophet is born, that would not have shaken him at all. But when they said to him, a king is born, a king was born, Herod got real disturbed about it. And all Jerusalem with him. That word all is without distinction, not all without exception. All of those in the cabinet, all of those members of the Senate and the House of Representatives who belonged to the Herod rulership, they got together and they talked this thing over, and they really became disturbed. Verse 4 says, and when he, Herod, had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. Look who he got together. The chief priests and the scribes, the heads of the temple in Jerusalem. He got the chief priests and all the scribes, the members of the Sanhedrin, the ruling body of the temple. He got all of these people together, and he said, now, fellas, if you don't mind, will you please get your scrolls and within the next 6 months or a year, report to me as a committee on where Jesus Christ should be born? No. You ought to read it in the original text. The word demanded in King James is not quite strong enough, and yet it is in one sense. If you can say demand and demand that you demand, then you have the essence of that word. He said to the chief priest, he said, I want to know from you exactly where and when Jesus Christ was born. And he said, I want this data tonight. I'll bet those fellows stayed up all afternoon, just looking in the Word, trying to find out, because Herod demanded it. He didn't give them 6 months to report as a committee. He said, I got to know. He demanded of them where Christ should be born. Verse 5, and they reported to him, and they said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, and thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the princes of Judah, For out of these shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Were they right? Definitely. Definitely. I believe this record is from Isaiah, if I remember correctly. Those of you who've got a center reference your Bible, is it from Isaiah, this one that they gave? Micah? Okay. Just a few books away. Okay. From Micah. All right. This is the record they gave him. They were accurate in their report. But Herod had demanded, and I want you to notice what he demanded. He demanded to know where Christ should be what? Born. That's the key. Remember that now. All he wanted to know is where he was born. Now watch the next verse. Then Herod, when he had called the leaders of the temple and the wise men together, no, he was a smart cookie, a wise king at this time. He knew you better get rid of the religious boys because they'll throw a monkey wrench into this or do something. He said he never invited them in, but he did bring in the wise men. He dismissed the chief priests and the scribes and the rest of the rulers of the Sanhedrin. Then he secretly, that's what the word privily means. And Herod, when he had secretly, in secret, no NBC or ABC present, no news media allowed. It was behind closed doors, secret meeting. Secret meeting. And look what he said. He called the wise men, inquired of them what? Diligently. Diligently. Diligently meaning with minute accuracy as to what time the star had appeared. Had that tremendous star been visible over Bethlehem, the place where Jesus Christ was born, the night he was born, everybody in town would have known it, right? Sure. It would have just been like a great advertisement for the whole community. Everybody would have said, hey, what's going on? What's going on? But this star was visible many miles away to a group of astronomers. And Herod said to them, now can you remember and tell me exactly, minutely, as to what time, just exactly when, did this star appear? He had not asked the chief priest that, had he? Or the scribes. He had only asked them as to where Christ should be born. But he asked the astronomers, the wise men, as to the time of that birth, or the time of that star. And verse 8. And he, Herod, sent them who? The wise men, to where? Bethlehem. And said, go, now watch this, and said, go and search diligently for the baby. No. The night Jesus Christ was born, he was a what? A baby. But a year and a half later, he would no longer be referred to as a baby, biblically and technically speaking. A year and a half later, he would be referred to as a young child. Reverend Mrs. Talley, in the October issue of The Witness, which she publishes every month, one of our way grads, one of our workers, in the October issue, she set forth some of these words that I just want to share with you. First of all, there is the Greek word, brephos, spelled B-R-E-P-H-O-S. This is a newborn baby, helpless, unable to feed itself. This is the word that's translated child at times in the Bible.